all understanding. Cover me with your presence, comfort me in my mind. Give me fresh mental and spiritual attitude. Cause me to rest and not be stressed. Let rivers of joy and happiness fill me every moment of this day. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. The Our Father prayer, please. Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
As we
Forgive us
forgive
our
those
trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
For
Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Second agenda order would be the adoption of Senate.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I beg leave to move for the adoption of the minutes of the last sitting of the Honourable Senate, held on the 25th day of February 2021, if I may obtain a seconder.
Madam President,
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of February 21st be adopted as presented unless there are any additions, deletions, or corrections.
As many. I moved and seconded, yeah. I moved it and it was...
No, he's saying this.
Good, you can move.
Okay.
Questions?
As many as are in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are adopted as presented.
No, that's 25th. That's what we just did. There's not. The Senate hasn't met. The 12th? Oh, okay. We have the Yes, Madam President, I beg leave now to move for the adoption of the minutes of the 12th of March 2021, if I may obtain a seconder.
Madam President, I rise to second.
The minutes of the 12th of March 2021 has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are accepted as presented. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign, swearing in of new senators, communications by the President, messages from the Governor General, messages from the House of Assembly,
Bahamas, number 70. Message to the Honorable President and Honorable Members of the Senate from the Speaker and representatives of the Honorable House of Assembly. The House of Assembly acquaints the Honorable Senate that they have passed the following bills and desire the consent of that Honorable Chamber, namely, a bill for an act to provide for the framework and procedures for the public procurement of goods, work, and services, to establish a public procurement department to promote transparency and integrity in public procurement and for connected matters. A bill for an act to consolidate the law relating to the management and control of public debt in the Bahamas and to provide for governance aspects, high-level policy objectives, and institutional arrangements for the prudent management of the government's debt, the giving of guarantees and granting of loans, and to provide for matters connected therewith and ancillary thereto. A bill for an act to provide for the control and management of public finance, the operation of the consolidated funds, for the authorization of expenditures, for the administration of special funds, for the investment of public money, for internal audit, for the management of government property, for the preparation of the financial statements and reports on public finances, for the accountability of public entities and government business enterprises, collection of revenue and for transitional matters and consequential amendments, and to provide for matters connected therewith and incidental thereto. bill for an act to repeal the Statistics Act 1973 to establish the Bahamas National Statistical Institute and the Bahamas National Statistical Institute Board, to make provision for a national statistical system to facilitate the establishment of standards for collecting, compiling, analyzing, and publishing official statistics and for related purposes. House of Assembly, Nassau, 15th March 2021. House and Mitri Speaker.
May the documents be brought up? Lie on the table. Laying of documents by ministers.
Yes,
Chair
ma'am.
recognizes Senator Close.
Yes, Madam President. I beg your leave to lay on the table of the Senate the following orders: emergency powers, COVID-19 pandemic risk management, number 4, amendment number 6, order 2021. The real property tax amnesty order 2021. And Madam President, the following regulations: the Aircraft Accident Investigation Authority Regulation 2021 and the Price Control General Amendment number 2 Regulations 2021. And Madam President, the following reports: the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit Annual Report 2020, the Disaster Reconstruction Authority Progress Report February 2021.
May the documents be brought up? May the documents do lie on the table? Further laying of documents by ministers? Communications by ministers. The
Madam
chair
President.
recognizes Senator Bethel.
Thank you. This really may be more on a point of personal privilege. I see that the Speaker accused me of misleading the country. There's nothing that I would say publicly on a matter of controversy that I could not stand in this Senate and say without fear of anyone saying that I was misleading the Senate. What I said was the truth as I saw it, based on my records. Some have WhatsApps, I have WhatsApps. Cabinet met on the 9th, and we discussed procedures. Consequent to that discussion, I walked out of this cabinet room and sent a message requesting the Senate to be called for Friday. There's no misleading of anybody. The statement I made was a statement merely to outline the sequence of events. No blame was ascribed to anybody. Nobody was accused of anything, just pointing to a sequence of events. And for those who think that I would throw the chief clerk under the bus, nothing could be further from the truth. The chief clerk issues the notices. That was all that was stated. The chief clerk has shown himself in over 40 years of service to this parliament to be extremely knowledgeable, efficient, helpful, and a source of guidance and support for whomsoever is in office at any particular time. He is a man who stares straight down the middle and has done a commendable job. And it is my view, that given his years of service, the vast experience, he will undoubtedly rise to the heights of being known in due course as one of the great clerks of Parliament. A peer to the great Percy Saunders, who was clerk to the Parliament, it seemed, for ages. And so, Madam President, thank you very much.
Communications by senators. The chair recognizes Senator Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First, I want to rise to extend condolences to the families of 3 people who were tragically killed in a boating accident which took place in the North Eleuthera area off what I'm told is called Man Island. They're the family, so we extend condolences to the family of Jay Roberts, looks like Leanna Cartwright and Candace McDonald. Very sad that young people have lost their lives in this boating accident. I hope that at the end of the day, there's a proper investigation to determine what happened and that justice prevails in this situation. So may they rest in peace. I do, however, wish to, at this point, react to the statements just made by the learned Attorney General. And I think, notwithstanding the explanation that was given, the fact is that we were summoned here at 10 a.m. on Friday last, and no member of the government appeared. There are 3 ministers in the Senate. The business of who said what and who didn't say what is not the affairs of the country. The country expects that if the government summons us to do business in this place, a government minister is supposed to be here. And I thought that at the very least, there ought to be, I heard the explanation, some kind of apology to the country for what happened. It's the most extraordinary thing. And then the question of not assigning blame. When I read the press statement, and certainly the public has drawn the conclusion that it was clearly throwing the clock under the bus. Even if that were not the intention, that's the way it came off. And I mean, I've had quite a lot of experience in this constitutional law business, and as I understood it, ministers are responsible for their personal acts and those of their departments. So the question of whether the clerk sent the notice out or didn't send the notice out should not have arisen. It should have been a simple, bare statement. We regret, we apologize for what happened, and move on. But I think that that, at the very least, Madam President, is what is expected. All of us were here, with the exception of Senator Clay Sweeting, who was excused because he's in Spanish Wells and the difficulties of traveling. But ministers ought to be on the job. They set the meeting. They said 10 o'clock on Friday, not us. So 10 o'clock on Friday, ministers should have been here. And whether you read your emails, didn't read your emails, whether you spoke to the clerk or didn't speak to the clerk, that's not our business. You're supposed to be here 10 o'clock in the morning so the business can be conducted. And the country expects that, particularly someone so learned. A Zoom meeting gets to be an excuse for not showing up at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's what the press statement said. That's what the press statement said. Well, fine, whatever meeting is. But what I'm saying, whatever it is, 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday, the leader for government business should have been here, or some minister of the government. Now, there's no getting around that. And that's, I wanted to make that point quite firmly. And I hope going forward, I know I don't expect any apology, any further statement, but I hope that this is not repeated. Thank you.
If I may make a comment, which is unusual in these circumstances, I simply want to say that the government had enough members here to make up a quorum, which is required. So the question as to whether or not the notices went out obviously could only have been done as a result of the individuals on the government side being present. The vice president was aware that she would be sitting in the chair, because that is a communication that I had personally with her. So I don't think there's any question as to whether the message was or was not sent out. The fact that they were here was based on my communicating with the clerk and the clerk subsequently sending out the message. I am not here to make a judgment on the meaning of anybody's comments. I do know that what should have been done was done as far as messaging. And that would be where my concern would be centered. We will continue with our order of business. Questions? Answers to questions? Presentation of petitions, appointment of select committees, reports of committees. First reading of bills.
Thank you, Madam
Chair
President.
recognizes Senator Bethel.
Thank you. Madam President, I now beg leave to move for the first reading of the bill that is known as the Public Procurement Bill, which is a bill for an act to provide for the framework and procedures for the public procurement of goods, works, and services, to establish a public procurement department, to promote transparency and integrity in public procurement, and for connected matters. If I may obtain a seconder.
Madam President, I rise to second.
There you go, Madam President.
It has been moved and seconded that the following bill, a bill for an act to provide for the framework and procedures for the public procurement of goods, works, and services, to establish a public procurement department, to promote transparency and integrity in public procurement, and for connected matters. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. The ayes have it. Order that the bill be read a first time.
A bill for an act to provide for the framework and procedure for the public procurement of goods, works, and services, to establish a public procurement department, to promote transparency and integrity in public procurement, and for connected matters.
Thank you. Further first readings?
No further first readings.
Second reading and committal of bills?
None. Not today.
Committee of the whole Senate. Third reading and passing of bills.
None.
Consideration of House amendments.
None.
Resolutions.
None.
Discharge of select committees.
None.
Before we continue, I just want to make a few additional statements. This is the first opportunity this chamber has had to recognize International Women's Day. And I think it's important that we acknowledge this particular and very important from the United Nations, who has proclaimed that Monday of last week would have been International Women's Day. I think a lot of times we acknowledge International Women's Day and we talk about women and their progress, and we focus only on parliamentary and political leadership, when I think there's so many more things about women that we need to acknowledge. And this particular past year, I think, has clearly demonstrated the work and the investment of women in their families and in the country. When we see, particularly in the area of education, where we have teachers who had to, within a very short period of time, learn a totally new method of teaching rather than face-to-face, and still keep children engaged. I think it was a phenomenal process that may not have been 100% successful, but by far, we kept our children learning. And so our teachers, who are primarily female, I think has done a remarkable job in keeping our educational system moving forward. Another group of women who I think, from the health perspective, which would be our nurses in the healthcare industry, has really stood up to the plate and continued the process of providing healthcare, and in their forum for Bahamians in general. And finally, the final group is mothers. Mothers who, as head of families in a very difficult situation, were able to, for the most part, keep their families together. Some of them were also teachers, so they had to extend themselves into that medium where they were taking care of their children at home, some of them with resources that might have been less than what they normally are experiencing, and still be parents. And so when we talk about the International Day of the Women, we must always keep in mind that we're not talking only of parliamentary leadership or governmental leadership. We are just talking about women in general and their importance in our community and how that should be recognized. On another issue, I would like to express sincere condolences to the Marshalls in Exuma. Mrs. Marshall passed about a week and a half ago, and it's important to me to acknowledge this because I was very close with their family, having had the privilege of delivering 4 of her grandchildren and coming to know her family very well. And so I share sincere condolences with them. Especially, I share condolences with the parents of Kenron Dean, a 10-year-old child who is in his home and is shot dead with 1 bullet. And I think it is very difficult for us to really, even with as much empathy as possible, understand what the mother must be feeling when her child is in her house, but still killed by individuals who come into her home and eliminate her child, one of twins. And so I don't know what it is that we need to do, but I think for all of those who hear me, if it is possible, share your condolences with this mother and what she must be feeling. I would also like to extend condolences to the family of the individuals who were killed in North Eleuthera. Totally unexpected and very, very tragic. And so I share with them the pain that they must be experiencing, and we pray for them so that they are lifted up as much as can be possible at this point in time. Thank you, Senators.
It was with shock to look at the papers today and to see 3 young persons who tragically lost their lives yesterday. And I'm sure that their families, and indeed the whole community of Harbour Island, is utterly, North Eleuthera is utterly devastated by their untimely loss. And I can assure the Bahamian people that the matter will be fully and properly investigated to determine what caused or contributed to such a horrific tragedy. We will do the best we can to find that out and to ensure that something like this should never happen again. Let me also join with you, Madam President, in expressing condolences to the family of the young man who was shot at home. This, unfortunately, is a very sad incident that continues to happen. It wasn't so long ago that a child was shot by a stray bullet sitting in their home, I believe it was in Foxhill. It is absolutely tragic that this gun culture continues to wreak havoc upon the lives of so many young people. And so all I can say is that I trust that we will, through both strengthened law enforcement means, but also through community outreaches and community building techniques, that we can begin to put an end to this scourge of violence in the homes that is so devastating and has harmed so many children. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The Chair recognizes Senator Sawyer.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow senators. I rise also to associate myself with remarks made by a fellow senator, bringing condolences to all those who lost their lives over the weekend. But more especially, Madam President, I rise to commend an individual who has been with us for a very long time, who celebrated her birthday this last Sunday in the person of Miss Louise Bosfield. She became 100 years old on Sunday past. All right, and we visited her on Sunday, and I understand the Governor General visited her also on Sunday to bring remarks and also to present her with a plaque from Her Majesty the Queen. We spent a little time with Miss Bosfield. I think she's the oldest living member of our council. Am I correct? Yeah. She sits on the council of advisory council member. Okay, of our council. Okay, she's 100 years old. And surprisingly, she is still intact with all her faculty. She has a little hearing problem, but nevertheless, she's got good memory. Sometimes it's better memory than me. Right? But I'd like to congratulate her, and I wish her much more long life. I wish she'd be here with us for another 100 years. So I'd like to extend congratulations to her and wish her health and happiness.
Thank you, sir. Chair recognizes Senator Mitchell.
Yeah, sure. I would like to, particularly at this point, add my comments of support on International Women's Day, and obviously on the question of the condolences on the passing of the young boy and this avalanche of violence which exists in our country. He was had his whole life in front of him, and I keep wondering, what do we actually do? I mean, because I go back to what happened in Foxville back in December 2013. That has still not come to trial. I remind the Attorney General of this all the time. And then we just had this incident in Sandy Point. A group from Moores Island goes over for a social occasion in Sandy Point. An argument ensues. And, in the old days, you have an argument, you separate. The argument seems like it ends in someone shooting a man, point blank range in his head. I mean, what invites this kind of violence and anger amongst young people, that you can't go out anywhere and just have a good time? I mean, what are you fighting for? What are you shooting for? It just doesn't make any logical sense to me. But women are the backbone of so many things in our country, and I think dominate as a result of the women's movement and the lobbying that's gone on for over 100 years now for improving the rights of women and the education of women, so that almost every institution now is dominated by female leadership, with the one exception, and that is the political sphere. And we have to do our work to ensure that changes over time as well, so that there's equality of representation between men and women in this one last sphere, but almost everywhere else. And I would be remiss if I did not mention my own mother, because I say to people when they ask me, where do you get this from? I think the push to be involved in public life definitely came from that side of my family. And I say this every year around this time, Madam President, because daylight saving time, she had no interest in politics at all, except when daylight saving time came in. And every year she would write Lyndon Pindling and say, why are you all fooling with this time? You're making it too difficult for me to get my children up in the morning to go to school.
Amen.
Why don't you leave the time alone?
Amen.
And I mean, religiously wrote it out in longhand.
I agree with her.
So to my mother and all the other women, Congratulations.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Senator Boswick Dean.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, colleagues. I join with Senator Mitchell's mother in the hardship of waking my child up in the morning at
In the
this
dark.
time.
Mhm.
And I'm sure all mothers join with Mr. Mitchell's mother in that regard. I'd like to associate myself with the comments of all of my colleagues with respect to the losses that we've suffered in this country. I would also like to associate myself with the comments with respect to International Women's Day. With respect to the comments made by Senator Mitchell, of course, I too recognize that great progress has been made with women in all spheres of our economy and business. That is beyond question. What is questionable is whether or not they earn the same level of pay as their male counterparts. And we need to look at that more closely and ensure that, in fact, they do earn the same pay as their male counterparts. But I want to just take a brief moment to speak to the issue of women in politics. Much is being said in the public forum about women in politics. But I think, women, that we must also be very candid and real with ourselves. It is not enough for us to demand a seat at the political table if we do not put ourselves forward to take that seat. Yes, I say that as a person who, I will admit, my party would welcome me, and they've made it clear that they would welcome me to take a seat at the political table with them. And I, for personal reasons, I've already said to the nation that I can't go this time for personal reasons. But I also know, and not because I'm a member of any candidates committee, but I know that both parties have a difficulty with women putting themselves forward in adequate numbers. And I say that because I want to be fair to both parties in this regard. If we as women are going to beat that drum, then we have to be honest with ourselves and with the public about the numbers that are coming forward. And ladies, we have to find a way to address that. Gentlemen, we need your assistance to address that. We need to find a way that women feel secure, come to the front line. And that's not just secure from political animosity and commentary, which have no bearing on actual service to our nation. But that also has to do with security financially, to be able to put ourselves forward into the political realm. The reality is, despite the public perception that politics makes one rich, politics actually makes one poor.
Correct.
Politics drags money out of your pocket. Drags it. Hold your hand up and let it run through your fingers.
Mhm.
And it is difficult for women who have financial responsibilities to their families to take the front seat in politics unless we have some sort of real financial backing to our candidacy, and in the event that we are successful, to our financial welfare. If you're not in cabinet, your salary is about $28,000 a year as a member of parliament. $28,000 a year to serve the country really does not take one very far.
Yes.
And it's $12,000 per year in the Senate. And so we really have to, that's an issue that confronts both men and women in politics. But we have to really look at what it is that is perhaps holding our women back from coming forward into frontline politics in a realistic, true, and honest manner with ourselves, and not necessarily just beat both parties for the lack of our presence. We need to come around the table in different organizations and figure out, how are we going to get more of us to the table? We need to come together and support each other as women, not tear each other down on all sides of the political divide, to uplift all sides of the political divide so that we can ensure that persons can come to the table. We need also to try to implore our respective political parties to ensure that a certain percentage of candidates are women. But again, we can't put the cart before the horse. We need to make sure that when we make that demand, that there are enough women willing to take the step to take the seat. So we need to have, yes, a minimum quota, but we need to perhaps also look at policies where the political parties may be prepared to agree that in certain constituencies, they will only nominate women, so that no matter who wins, a woman would be at the table. So we have to have some real discussions. We have to be honest with ourselves in this regard. And I'm concerned sometimes when I hear the beating of both political parties. I'm concerned, quite frankly, when I hear the beating of my prime minister on this point. The prime minister, I can speak personally for myself. The prime minister has tried. I don't know whom else he has approached, but you can't beat him for it if in fact we are not prepared to take the seat. So I felt inclined to say that on International Women's Day. It's really also a call to our women. When we speak to wanting to be treated equally, we must be prepared to take the seat. This is the first time we sat since the killing of yet another child in the Bahamas. I'm actually glad that there was a moment to catch oneself before speaking to that, because I did try to get into the Senate on Friday, and I circled for more than 20 minutes seeking a parking space, and then I wrongly presumed the hearing had concluded. But I had intended on Friday morning to speak to that matter. And honestly, I was building myself up, not to share tears, to the family of that young boy, and sadly, to the family of the other families that have suffered the loss of children to violence, to gun violence in our Bahamas. It is just inconceivable. We are killing our children by shooting them dead.
In their homes.
Our children, when they are with their families. There is something just incomprehensible and horrific about where we are. Bahamas, I am a mother. I implore us, we have got to stop. We have to find answers. This is not FNM. This is not PLP. This is not DNA. This is not any other independent party out there. These are our children. And our children are killing our children. We must stop. I apologize for becoming emotional, but some things are not politics. It is exhausting to be on the front line and to have politics enter into everything rather than true concern about nation building and the welfare of our people. It is absolutely exhausting, and it is sometimes disgusting, and it is disheartening. We must come together as a people. We must reach across the gender divide. We must reach across the political divide. We must put aside our petty indifferences. We must do what is necessary to serve and save our nation. The road we are on is for disaster for each and every one of us. I don't know the answers, but we must find a way. The Justice Department, But by the time we get to the Justice Department, we have lost. So we don't look solely to you. By the time the police become involved, we have lost. Education, social services, Ministry of Youth. That's where the government focus needs to be. But these problems are not governmental problems. When we have to look to our government to discipline and to raise our children so that they don't kill our children, then we as parents have failed. We need to stop saying government, government, government. We must begin to manage our own homes. Do what is necessary to give our children love and support. Care for them, nurture them. Those are the things, Bahamas, that touch my heart today. When I say I cry for you mothers, I do. But if we can commit to each other, we can do this, Bahamas. We must do it. We must stop killing our children. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. You did notices. Okay, notices for future meetings.
I'd like to renew notices standing in the name of the opposition, please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to renew notice to standing in the name of the government on the agenda and give notice to the senators that it is proposed that the Senate on its rising be adjourned to tomorrow, 17th day of March at 10 a.m. to meet again on Thursday, the 18th of March at 10 a.m. and if necessary to meet on Friday to complete the business. At the next sitting of the Senate tomorrow, we will hope to debate with the consent opposite a compendium of financial bills and a resolution that will be in short order tabled by my colleague, Minister of State for Finance. We will debate them as one debate so that everybody will, because we're dealing with a budget resolution, everybody will have 1 hour to speak. All senators will have 1 hour to speak, the ministers 2 hours if they wish. And hopefully we'll get through this stack of bills and the resolution before the end of this week. Madam President, thank you very much.
Okay. The chair recognizes Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I beg leave to give notice that we agree the following resolution on the next meeting. Whereas the fiscal strategy report of the Ministry of Finance and the mid-year budget performance during the 6 months ending 31st December 2020 were duly tabled in this honorable House on the 18th of December 2020 and the 24th of February 2021, respectively. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the House adopts the 2020 fiscal strategy report and the mid-year budget performance.
The documents be brought up. The documents still lying on the table. Okay, adjournment. Oh, Senator.
I did it.
He did.
Madam President, I now beg you to move the Senate, at the Senate on its rising, be adjourned to Wednesday, the 17th day of March 2021 at 10 a.m.
Madam President, right?
It has been moved and seconded that the Senate on its rising do adjourn to Wednesday, the 17th of March at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. The Senate. You want to do your second part?
Madam President, I beg leave to move that the Senate be now adjourned.
The Senate is now adjourned.